Good morning and welcome to Common Thread Church.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, excellent. Have a seat. Relax. Enjoy yourself this morning, Doug. So Doug put in the weekly email a couple weeks ago a reminder of the importance of friendship, of building, of making, of creating friendship. As you know, as you've probably noticed from the small orchestra pit that we have had in church for the last several months, our focus this year is bolstering, fostering our kids' community. One of the reasons, however, that is a thing worth doing is because of friendship. And we're about to enter into the summer season. Things are slowing down. So into this less busy season, as in a minute here, you'll see the announcements. We're still in the throes of it. We still have activities coming left and right. But soon we're entering into that period when even as a church, we slow down. And the email a couple of weeks ago was hoping to remind you that this is an excellent time to start making friends. I was an English teacher for 20 years, and when I would teach that phrase, making friends, we would sort of dig into that. And it turned out that in almost every language in the world, there is a specific verb that comes to friendship, that in which it becomes clear that friendship is something we don't experience and feel only. We all feel sort of a passing attraction or a sense of being drawn to one personality or another, but making friendships is something that takes time. It takes a plan. And the summertime and the slower season make that an excellent time to do that. So if you look around today and there are people in this room whose names you don't know, recognize that that makes it a little bit more difficult to invite them to have coffee with you, to go for a walk with you. And one of the reasons we chose to make kids our focus this year is because, as you'll know, again, if you look around the room, none of us are getting any younger. And if any of us would like to be visited or spoken to or have any kind of chance of knowing what's going on in the world of contemporary pop culture, our best chances are that the children in our community like us, enjoy us, or at the very least feel sorry for us because they've seen us age over time. So our focus is bolstering our kids program, but in order to do that, and what makes it worth doing is that these kids, those kids that are downstairs in our basement right now, to move as a community from seeing them as the kids in the basement to our kids in the basement, our collective kids, our friends' kids. We know why those kids are acting badly at any given moment because we're friends with their parents and they are sitting next to us rolling their eyes and muttering under their breath. So again, I'd like to invite you. It is May. The kids will be out of school sometime in the next 6 weeks. Your life will slow down. Invite someone to help you to make a friendship. An important part of a church community, we are not only a place where we come to listen to interesting ideas, to get pointed to interesting books. We are a place where, in community, we get out of our own little echo chamber. And again, we can only take in all of these wonderful ideas, read these books, share the insights that we have, if we, as we look around the room, see friends around us. And if you are a newcomer to Common Thread, we welcome you. We've said this before, our slide here that you can see behind me, if you are here, you belong. The way that we remain true to that, the way that we keep that alive is by welcoming the stranger. So we renew our community and we renew our promise that if you're here, you belong by welcoming the newcomers to our church, welcoming people moving them from strangers to friends. So if this is first time to our church, if you are ready to become more involved, if you'd like to receive the weekly email, you can use the QR code or you can do it the old-fashioned way and go to the website and we will send you an email. The email will help you to understand some of the processes we have to get you involved. It will also put you in touch with a person who will take you out for a walk and help you to begin to make friendships. You'll notice that this slide looks a little different. So it usually says, how's your soul? And it is still an option. Morgan is still there out, not here today, but out there in the world waiting for an email to come in. How's your soul is still an option. If you would like to send an email to Morgan, she'll put you in touch with someone in the church who is able to meet with you, talk with you, help you through whatever hard time is happening. However, we also have a new project, a new process, a new program at our church. So how are you doing? What we have discovered through the help of Dawn, one of our members of our church, and Dawn will wave, there she is, she went all the way to the back. We have this resource. So in addition to How's Your Soul and Morgan, we have this resource in that we have these self-awareness worksheets. So actually, can I see a show of hands? Has anyone here not seen the self-awareness worksheets? Is everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? So if what I'm talking about today is new, Dawn also, in addition to the service I'm about to talk about, could point you in the direction on the website where to find those. So there are people in our community who have been through a training process. It's called the Self-Awareness Worksheet. People have been trained to be either the listener, but people have also actually been trained to be the speaker, because it turns out that this process it's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of us. So we've created this resource in which if you need to talk with someone to focus on an afflictive emotion that you're experiencing and to get to the bottom of it, to move from the feelings that we identify in our body through the stories that we most likely are telling ourselves about that feeling to our actions and to hopefully interrupt that process, we've created this self-awareness worksheet. So Dawn went to Doug a few weeks ago and pointed out that because we have all of these trained listeners and people who have the experience of being speakers, why not make it more available to the community? So, Dawn, would you stand up for a moment? As you can see, this morning, Dawn is wearing a name tag, and behind her there are some placards and some materials. Every week, she's holding that up for you. Every week at church, in that back corner, next to those placards, people who have been through this training process, and I'll be wearing one of these this afternoon as well, will make themselves available at that table. So if you are having a rough week, if you got attacked by a feral cat and now you have 4 kittens on your back deck and you're kind of running out of steam with that because they're cute, but they're not that cute, or something more serious is going on in your life, you know that we have this resource in our community. And now we have found a way to bring that to you. So these listeners will be wearing name tags, will sit in the back, and if after church on any given week, you would like to go back, introduce yourself, take a walk around the campus, maybe grab something to eat together, a cup of coffee, stay on the campus, leave, we would like for you to know that that group of people is looking forward to providing that service. Dawn, please. But that's not the objective of this. Thank you, Don. Yeah, we're calling this listener, but know that if after this process of sitting with someone and talking, if you'd like to do a self-awareness worksheet, of course, we can point you to that program as well. Okay. So, the listeners are part of the communal quadrant of the circle. We work hard as a community to make sure that we are, as we say, working the circle. Communal, contemplative, listening, serving, learning, serving. So, the calendar. So, we've asked before to please remember to check in at least once a week to the website or to the app, because as you can see, we are still in the last few weeks of this busyness. What you see in front of you constitutes 3 weekends. So today after service, of course, what are you thinking on Zoom? Bob and John, who are raising their hands, there they are, will be hosting a 1-week listening session today after the service. The room numbers are also in the slides. I think it's room 211 today. As you know, if you've been around Common Thread for any length of time, One Wake is a Raleigh organization that brings together several churches to advocate for the needs of the community to the city's government. And one of the most important parts of that is these listening sessions. So what Bob and John are looking to do today is to listen to your concerns as citizens of our city and also your experience with your neighbors, to listen to you in order to convey those concerns to the organization of One Wake so that they can become planning priorities. John, please.
Just to clear, it's not just Raleigh, it's Wake County.
Good point. Yep. So all of Wake County citizens and many of the churches are both in Raleigh and in neighboring communities. So if that's something you'd like to do today, you'll go on down the hall, you'll sit down with Bob and John. You don't need any preparation. It is what it describes itself as, a listening session. After you've done that, after you've shared your concerns in order to make them planning priorities, you are welcome to go tonight and have a beer to celebrate your act of community-mindedness. The 3 activities, as you can see here on the calendar, we've got our CTC Brew Crew tonight. Next weekend is Bunko Night. More information about that on the website. That will be Friday night. And on May 14th, which I believe is a week from today, an actual Sunday, down the hall is the next Centering Prayer Group. That usually takes place, I think, from 9 to about 9:30. And then the third weekend on this slide, we are coming up onto another drop-in Enneagram group. So, again, to emphasize how important this is, One Wake is something that our church has been involved in for a few years now. And this part of One Wake is the most important part because this is a grassroots community organization. We have another opportunity to engage in the Learning Quadrant. Laura Thabit and Christy Phillips are hosting this. They're calling it a book study. It is not a book group in the sense of reading and discussing. It is a book that offers the immediate application of skills. So if you're interested, some of you have been participating in these last 3 weeks of the conflict resolution activity down in the fellowship hall. This book lays out some of the skills that you saw enacted in that room. So this will take place online. It is 4 weeks. It takes place over the course of a month. So if you're interested in this, it starts on June 1st. Okay, so here we are. We are in May. We are fully into the spring. We have, as North Carolinians, about another month before it is 99 degrees, and the birds that you see on this slide will be in there. Dead of overheating. Victims of climate change, sadly. So we are in springtime. The trees are beautiful. The sky is blue. The temperature is still lovely. Hopefully your porch is no longer covered in yellow crud and you're enjoying it. You're interacting with your neighbors. You are getting outside. So let us renew our promise to each other as a community. And let's say together, as we do each week, if you are here, you belong.
If you are here, you belong.
And we are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light.
We are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light.
We are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath.
We are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath.
Excellent. So, last week, for our meditation, we focused on a body scan, and we're going to do that today because today is a contemplative Sunday. I have in front of me here some very interesting and profound language from Doug about the importance of a body scan, and I will share it with you. It has to do with the prefrontal cortex being so smart in us as human beings that sometimes in its work, its effort to keep us focused on the act of staying alive in a dog eat dog, claws, teeth. Turns out all of that is not metaphorical. The claws and the fangs are a real thing, and they're ready to eat you if you hold still long enough. Our prefrontal cortexes do what they were meant to do. They keep us alive, they keep us focused on survival, on the acts of, as Doug put here in my notes, hunting, gathering, eating, protecting, and making babies. So our prefrontal cortexes are important. However, we are members of a culture that have invested fully in ourselves as rational creatures. And as you can see when you look out the window, this has not entirely served us well. It is true that we have obtained ChatGPT and electric vehicles, and I have a really good shiatsu massager that somebody designed and built, and I wouldn't want to live without it anymore. However, we are also creatures of the body. We are also embodied souls. We are people who feel and feel deeply. And as we talked about last week, when Robin came to speak with us about the Enneagram, an important part of working with conflict resolution, when you do have a conflict with another human being, an important part of identifying afflictive emotions, and as you will know is pretty common with us as human beings, and hopefully if you are having one of those weeks, you will sit down with a listener. An important part of being an embodied human being is to knowing and learning how to know what is happening in the actual body, what is happening in terms of your feelings, in terms of your emotions, identifying those, noticing them, not projecting them. So we talked about that a little bit last week, about the importance of this. We've decided to do a body scan again, and Melissa will lead us through that in a moment. But I do think it's important to underline how important it is to recognize as a spiritual community the importance of the body and the information it gives us. I personally had to, the first time I went through what all human beings go through, an illness, something that wouldn't go away quickly, and the fear and potentially the suffering that can bring when you're going through that for the first time, you have to get to the point where you can welcome the information you're getting from your body. Maybe even begin to see it as a friend, a canary in the mind, if you will, letting you know important information, both so that you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself, but that also you can celebrate the experience of being alive and feeling in the world. So Melissa is going to take us through a 10-minute body scan, and I invite you to sit comfortably in a chair, find a space, maybe close your eyes, and Melissa will take us through that.
All right, so testing. As Heather said, you can start to find a comfortable position. If it feels good and safe to close your eyes, you can start to do that. If that doesn't feel safe, you can just allow the gaze to soften and settle. And just to start to become aware of your breath. Start to invite in some deeper breaths. And just notice how the breath moves through the body. As you start to take some deeper breaths, you can notice how the inhale invites in life, oxygen, movement. And as you exhale, notice the release, the surrender, the sinking, the letting go. And then you can start to bring awareness down into your feet. Notice what you feel here. Notice any sensations, the points of contact with the floor. Perhaps you don't feel anything at all, and that's okay. Whatever you feel or don't feel, allow yourself to feel it fully. See if you can breathe into the feet and out through the feet. What would that feel like? And you can start to let the feet dissolve in the mind and bring the attention upward into the calves, the knees, the thighs. Notice whatever sensations might be arising in these areas. Again, maybe you notice points of contact against the chair, clothing on the skin. Maybe you notice some points of tension or tightness or even pain. This is an excellent time to practice non-judgment, acceptance, love. Maybe one leg feels different than the other, and that's okay. This is not a practice of changing. This is a practice of observing, accepting. So just observe what you feel and be with it fully. Can you breathe into the legs and out from the legs? Allowing the exhale to release any tension or holding. And allowing for some settling. And then you can start to bring the awareness up into the pelvis, the tailbone, the low back. Notice what arises here. This practice of a body scan does give our mind something to focus on, but it is not uncommon for our mind to want to go somewhere else. And that is okay. If you have noticed that or you are noticing that now, then simply notice, accept, love, and return. This practice of meditation is a continual cycle of noticing, accepting, loving, and returning. So returning to the mid-back, the upper back. Notice any sensations you feel here. The chair supporting you, holding you. Breathe into the back and allow the exhale to soften, to let go. And then moving your attention into your low belly, to the muscles surrounding this area, perhaps to the internal organs. Be with whatever arises here, without judgment, without story, just observing. Allow the breath to expand the belly, creating space, and allowing the exhale to soften. And then moving the attention upward into the heart, the chest, the lungs. Notice what arises here. Feeling the heartbeat. Noticing the breath as it moves through the lungs. feeling the movement that the breath creates, noticing the rise and fall, allowing this to be a reminder that nothing is permanent. Things move, shift, change, always. And then start to bring the attention into the arms, the upper arms, the forearms, the hands and fingers. Notice what arises here. Is there any tension or holding or tightness? Or the hands holding any sort of tension? Without judgment, with loving acceptance, can you invite in softness? Then moving the attention into our shoulders, our neck, our throat region. This is a place that a lot of us carry a lot of tension and tightness. What's arising here for you today, in this moment? Can you allow the breath to soften, to let even a little bit of tension roll off the shoulders as you exhale? And then moving the attention into the face. There's a lot of muscles in our face. Are you holding tension here? What would it feel like to soften the muscles in the face? Can you soften around the eyes? Release the jaw. Let the tongue settle at the back of the throat. Just be with whatever arises, without judgment, without shame, without story. Just knowing, observing, accepting, loving. And then can you zoom your awareness out so that you can see your body as a whole? Looking down with gratitude, with love, for all of the weight that your body carries, for all of the work that it does, for all of the wisdom that it holds. Take a few more deep breaths here, just noticing, observing, and sending loving kindness and gratitude for this amazing body that you inhabit, that you walk through the world with every day. As you are ready, you can slowly come back to this moment, finding gentle, soft movements, fluttering the eyes open, and coming back. Thank you.
Good morning. We continue today our lesson on letting go. But first, a few housekeeping items. If you would, point your camera at the QR code and you will, that will take you to a form. There are a lot of things that have been listed recently there. You can also go to our website /clipboard, look for the broom, and you will find it there. I took some days off this week, so I haven't processed the responses from last week, though I did notice that there were quite a few. Thank you very much. I'll get you connected to the right people this week. I added one item this week. I'm hoping someone could do this. We have 6 large boxes of insulation waiting for us at Lowe's on Capitol Boulevard, and they're very light. They're not heavy. They're just big. So we need someone with a pickup truck who could pick them up, and even today would be wonderful. If you could do that today, could you raise your hand, and then we won't even have to go through the form? Anyone? Okay, then go to the form. So there's also a box there to click to help Angie help Josh learn how to use Uber. Angie, you want to just explain that real quick?
Yeah, do I need to come up?
I know you can just stand right up there and do it.
Michelle has me so chilled out that I'm afraid I can't summon the adrenaline to actually do a good job. I have a important friend I've made in this community. It's Josh. Josh, yeah, he's right here. He is 9 minutes away, and I picked him up, or John and Lena picked him up to come to church every Sunday. The tricky part is getting him home, because a lot of times there's things going on after church that folks want to attend. And he does need to get home pretty quickly. His family picks him up on Sundays to spend time together. So we need someone who can teach Josh how to use Uber. That'd be a really important, expansive life skill for him, as you can imagine, because Josh is visually impaired and he cannot drive. So I have not had the bandwidth to lift this final piece of making this project of getting him to and from church really sustainable long term. And so I'm asking for someone out there, here small now doable, who understands how Uber works, to help Josh with his first Uber ride and navigating how it works. It might help you to know that Josh is really independent. He lives independently. This Uber will literally drop him off on the sidewalk outside his apartment, and he'll take it from there. So it's really just someone to help him understand how to meet the Uber, communicate with the Uber driver, get in the Uber with him, go there, drop him off on the sidewalk, help him understand that he will be safe, and then have the Uber bring you back here and get your car to go home. So it may be a commitment of about an hour after church one day. So I just feel like there's someone who will have an internal nudging that this is something that they could help us with. And so if that's you, just let us know. All right, thanks.
So either click the box or just talk to Angie. Also, you'll see that there's a box to click there for helping pick songs. There's one for painting trees down in the children's area, adults playing xylophones, several things you'll see there. So we started this week on letting go last week, and we started with a reminder. And the reminder was the distinction between religion and spirituality. Spirituality, we said, is internal experience. It's finding meaning, or it's finding inner peace, or it's connecting to something that is bigger than ourselves. Spirituality is experience. Religion, on the other hand, is the structure that helps us toward that experience. Religion is structure. It's the structure of teaching us the meaning-making stories, helping us to learn and then apply the spiritual practices like we did today with Body Scan. Reminds us when we forget to do the things, to remember the things, to help each other do the things, help each other remember the things. Spirituality is internal experience. Religion is external structure to help us move toward the experience. We also saw last week that every major religion has structure, has tools, has a curriculum for the spiritual practice of letting go. Because, turns out, letting go is pretty important if we're going to move into spiritual experience. Our brains are wired to latch on to things and then to stay latched. Clutchy-grabby, That was the term I used last week. We latch on to, for example, a job title because it signals some kind of an accomplishment that we have worked toward. Or we latch on to a relationship because that relationship fulfills us at a deep place, and so we get attached to that. We latch on to a role that we play that gives us meaning or that it gives us purpose. Or we latch on to something simple like a favorite sweater or a pair of jeans or a ring that has sentimental value. And the thing is, we need jobs and we need relationships. We do have roles to play. We do need sweaters and jeans and cherished memories. The things themselves are not really the point of the letting go curriculum. The point is the clutchy grabby. The point is the thing that happens inside of us around the things, the death grip that we fasten on to these kinds of things. So thank you, religious traditions, all of them, ours included. Thank you for tools that will help us. Now, I said last week that this lesson will focus on the very practical tools, and we will, practical tools for letting go. But this is the introductory context part of the lesson, so I want to make sure that we catch the bigger why before we start to move into the practical how. Today, I want to reinforce what I said last week by telling the story of my son, and I'm going to do that by telling another story about my wife. I told last week how my son is wired for sales, and being so, he has all the innate traits that make him really good at it, but the very traits that have given him so much success, now as his career is growing more and more complex, those same traits are not serving him as well, so his inner way of being needs some adjusting, needs reimagining, needs adapting, but damn, that's hard, we saw last week. So if you missed that story, you can catch up online. The point was how difficult it is once we settle into our way of being to let go of our way of being, to let go of our way of making it in the world. Of all the things that we latch on to, that, our way of being, our way of making it in the world, that is the hardest to let go of. That's where we get the most clutchy grabby. Because we do have these bedrock beliefs about who we are, about how the world is, and those are the hardest to let go. So when religion provides us a set of letting go practices, a set of letting go tools, we start by applying them in very practical ways, letting go of titles and status and roles, letting go of sweaters and jeans and rings. Because we do that, and if we do, it helps get us ready for the eventual letting go of these very bedrock who I am things that we latch onto. So, I told that story about my son on Sunday. And then on Monday morning, looking at a week off, I slept a little bit later and then joined Denise on the couch for coffee. And as soon as I sat down, she started talking. She'd been sitting there waiting for me, journaling and thinking about the lesson. She was thinking about Michael. She was thinking about herself. By the way, now we're into the second story. We're starting now. So she had been journaling about her own way of making it in the world and what the texture of that way of making it in the world was. Also, she'd been following religion's letting go curriculum, and she's been doing for quite some time. She's been observing the impact that her way of making it in the world has had on her life. My way, she said when I sat down on the couch, is just the opposite of Michael's way. For me, it's not carefree optimism that has helped me make it in the world. For me, it has not been the connecting freely way that Michael makes it in the world. I see how that really does work for Michael, but for me, my way, the way that has worked for me is don't ever be lazy. That's my way. Don't ever be lazy. For me, it is the work hard, make things better, do good things, and do them well. That has been my way. And just like Michael's way has worked for him, this has really worked for me. Many of the good things that I've had in my life, she said, many of the good things that we have had in our lives, in our kids' lives, in our community, are because this has been my way of making it in the world. But just like Michael, my way hit a wall some years ago, and it stopped being optimal. The ugly side of my way, the painful side, started to show up and has started to get really obvious. So for a long time now, my spiritual practice, she said, has been all about this letting go practice. Letting go of the limiting constraints of my way of making it in the world. So just now, she said, sitting here journaling about my inner world, we are now on the cusp of 5 days of nothing to do. We don't have anywhere to go. We don't have anything that we have to do. And I am feeling, she said, bad feelings. It's not really one word kind of bad feelings. It's a mix of words. One of those words in the mix would be lazy. Another word would be wasteful. Maybe the word empty would apply. Not the best thing, that is in the mix. So some part of me, even though we've planned for these days off, even though some part of me thinks my focus should be elsewhere. I should be focused on something that advances my life or makes our lives better. Maybe I should be doing some kind of important self-work. Maybe I should be reading some important book. And yeah, she said, these feelings are a problem because the whole point of these days was to do nothing, was to rest. And this, she said, this struggle that I'm having this morning, it embodies the downside of my way of making it in the world. How difficult it is for me to rest. How difficult it is for me to just have fun or be carefree or lay around or savor simple joys. This is how blind my blind spot is, she said. Here's the word that keeps coming up as I've been journaling, the word frivolous. Because in my way of being in the world, fun or rest or savoring the simple joys of life, frivolous, unimportant, shallow, trivial. So, she said, how blind is that? Now, she said this part, but I've actually seen her doing it. She said, I've been working on this. I've been working on it a good long time. Consequently, look at this. And she pointed to the journal that was on the couch beside her. She said, here's what I've done. In the last hour, I've noticed these bad feelings. I didn't used to notice them. I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about and processing these bad feelings. I didn't used to do that. Used to, I would just get up and react to the feelings. Used to, I would just get up and run like a chicken. I would do something to make the feelings stop. But I have been using the tools, and I have been following the curriculum. And my inner drivers don't have nearly the power over me that they once had. But damn if they're still not there. Sitting on a couch by the fire on a chilly morning, 5 days of nothing that we have to do, and sure enough, that thing is still in there. My driving story would still like to drive me. Now let me pause the story for just a moment and say, that is no small thing. That is, we should have a party kind of step forward in a person's life. To be able to stand outside of our inner driving feelings and have the capacity to both notice them but not react to them, that is huge. Good on Denise, but also good on a lot of us, because I know many of us have been experiencing that same kind of capacity. We've been doing the practices, we have been able to see our inner drivers, and we have been able to distance ourselves from them and not immediately react to them. Now, I know that one of the tools in the curriculum that Denise has been steady with, we practiced this morning. She's been paying attention to her body, like the body scan that we did together this morning. And that practice, paying attention to her body, she's been doing it intentionally now for several years. She's given specific times to the practice to sit and do very formally, like what we just did now, pay attention to the feet, pay attention to the legs, those kinds of things, but also in a generalized, non-specific time, just paying attention to what's going on in her body. And because she's been doing that as long as she has been, that was preparation for this moment, so that she could sit on the couch, the feelings could kick in, and she could not get up and run away from them. So again, good on her. Notice what's happening in our bodies, not react to what's happening in our bodies, not fall for the standard go-to strategies that we have deployed to make the bad feelings go away, but to instead explore them and what's driving them. That's a profound step forward on the spiritual journey. Now, here's the thing. Religion, the infrastructure, helped her do the practice that helped her come to that point of spiritual awakening. Religion gave her the practice, religion gave her the people and the schedule and the reminders to help her actually do the practice, and then, having done the practice for a long time, able to sit there uncomfortably and practice letting go, letting go, letting go. That's why we do religion's curriculum. That's why we do the ancient practices. It's why we do body scans, why we do body awareness. It's why we do all of the practices, because in the moment, when the interior story, my way of being in the world, kicks in and starts driving the agenda, it's going to show up in our bodies. It's going to show up somewhere in our guts or in our necks or in our shoulders. It's going to show up as these embodied souls that Heather called us. It's going to show up somewhere in the body. And how we get ready for that moment, we do the body scan when it's not kicking in. So yeah, Denise has been following the curriculum. Then the feelings come up, and she's able to not distract, not sidestep, not deflect, not divert. Instead, she sits there and practices letting go, letting go, letting go. The way she has made it in the world, her way, is a good way. It is not good enough. So by the time I join her on the couch, she has both seen the story, she has journaled about the story, she can tell me the story, and she's even seen some texture to the story that she hadn't seen in other times doing this. And she said to me, here's the story that drives so much of my life. Rest is something that we deserve. Deserve. Somehow I have to earn it. If I haven't earned my rest, then I don't deserve my rest. And the way that I earn it, the way that I deserve it, is a little bit unreasonable. Because in order to rest peacefully, I have to first take care of what needs to be taken care of. If I do that first, then, okay, I'll rest. Then, okay, I'll enjoy. Then, okay, I'll relax. Then, okay, I'll be frivolous. But the thing is, that has really worked for me in my life. We've got a nice word for it. We call it delayed gratification. And who doesn't think delayed gratification is a good idea? It really works for us. But the problem is, she said, what needs to be taken care of is never taken care of. It is never taken care of. So with that story in my brain, the one story that I latched onto in my brain when I was just a little girl, the one that has become my way of making it in the world, if I keep letting that story have its way, I will never rest, and I will never relax, and I will never be spontaneous, and I will never be joyous, and I will never be frivolous, and I will never savor fun. That story, that way of being, that's the space where I have to practice letting go, letting go, letting go. So she said, I've been sitting here on the couch waiting for you, and I've been practicing letting go, letting go. And the way that I've been practicing it is I've just been allowing myself to feel the discomfort of not getting up and doing something productive. Feeling this discomfort of this frivolous moment. And I've been feeling it in my body, and I've been watching where in my body it happens, and I've been insisting of myself, just sit there, damn it. Sit through the discomfort. Do not distract myself from the discomfort. Do not get up and start doing something. Do not entertain myself in order to distract myself. Feel the feelings, see the story, then let it go, let it go, let it go. And my Lord, I've been at this a long time. After all this time, that tenacious story is still in there, and I am still practicing letting it go, letting it go. Thank God it's better than it was, but it is still in there. Well, that's what this lesson is about. We start practical. We start with the practices of letting go of practical stuff. Thank you, religion, there is a curriculum. Thank you, religion, there are tools. But let's keep in mind, when we get to the practical tools part, the practical tools part are about this. Letting go of the interior drivers that internally drive us. Letting go starts, for example, by developing a regular practice of body scan. It's a good place to start the practice. We could start by having some kind of regular Lenten practice, some giving up something. Doesn't have to happen during Lent. Some practice of letting go of something that has undue attachment in our minds. Letting go can start with some practical tool that we integrate into our lives and begin living on a regular basis. But that's where the letting go practice starts. It doesn't stop there. Those practices about practical things take us somewhere. They take us to the dismantling of identities that we have come to believe are me, the core of who we are, the way that we have relied on being in the world, which, as we've said, while they're good and while they're true and while they're helpful in some ways, are not true or good or helpful enough. So last week I gave us a homework assignment, and I said, I want you to watch yourself. I hope you did. I hope you tried it. Watch yourself this week and try to distinguish between two kinds of good feelings. The good feeling we get when we get something that we want. Maybe we get an accomplishment, or maybe we get some recognition, or maybe we complete a task and we do the job well, and we get the good feeling that comes from doing a job well. And I said, now try to also see if you have another kind of good feeling and distinguish that good feeling from this one, from the good feeling that you get when you are surprised by something beautiful. Maybe something beautiful in nature, maybe a human being expression of beauty, maybe an expression of love or kindness or goodness. Maybe you get caught up doing something and lose yourself in the moment of that doing. You are engrossed enough in the thing that you forget self. I was talking to my son about how it went telling his story this week, and he said, you know, that thing happens to me. I lose myself when I'm snowboarding. He said, sometimes in that moment of snowboarding, I will even find myself weeping because of the joy of the presence of being in that moment. And so this distinguishing the difference between the I got something happy moment and the I am caught by something happy moment. Maybe you might get caught up in a beautiful story in a book or in a movie or in hearing an important truth spoken well. So I'm going to make that the homework assignment again this week for a few reasons. First, because there's a good chance you didn't do it this week. Second, because it's a really big job. Hard to do it well in only a week. But third, if you did try and do it this week, odds are, if you paid attention, you noticed a very disproportionate ratio. The number of times that you experienced the good feelings from getting something, your way of making it in the world actually worked out. The ratio of those times to the times when you were captured by beauty, the ratio is probably very disproportionate. Because it's easy to miss that second kind of good feeling because our minds have an evolutionary bias. We are biased toward the other kinds of good feelings. Because here's what those other good feelings do. They keep us doing whatever we did to get those feelings and, here's the key word, make it in the world. So, of course, our brains have that kind of bias. You heard Heather using my notes from earlier about why we do the body scan, because the prefrontal cortex says, I'm going to keep you alive. I'm going to do everything I can to keep you alive. I'm going to make sure you get out there and eat, hunt, gather, and have babies, because if you do that, the species will go on. And so the bias is toward those kinds of good feelings. But religion creates a curriculum to develop a spirituality around the other kind of good feelings, not just the making it in the world kinds of good feelings. The religion points us, when it's doing its job well, to less dependence upon the former kind of good feelings and more awareness of the latter kind of good feelings. Because the former, limited at best. The latter, limitless. So that's what I would like us to try again this week. Observe, do we find moments in which we are caught by beauty, or in which we are engrossed in something so deeply we become self-forgetful? Because that way of being gets closer to what it means to be the authentic me. But I'd also like to try us to try a second thing this week. Maybe right now you might set a reminder in your phone so you remember to do it this week. And that is to notice bad feelings. And in the noticing, try not to respond immediately to the bad feelings, but instead to try and do what Denise did sitting on the couch this week, what our body scan invites us to do this morning, to just notice and not yet do anything about it. There'll be time to do anything about it. We're not just going to let the world go to hell in a handbasket. We will take care of shit that needs to be taken care of. We'll do that. But for a moment, let's just notice it and try our best to keep ourselves from distracting ourselves from the feelings. And if you can, you get some bonus points if you can begin the process of letting go, but that might come after some practice. Let's start by being watchers of our feelings. Let's watch the positive ones and watch which kind they are. Let's watch the negative ones and try not to react in response to make those bad feelings go away. So if we can be observers of what goes on in our bodies instead of reactors to what goes on in our bodies, later we can begin to think about the practices, very practical practices of letting go, letting go, letting go. And eventually come to the place where we can let go of the drivers that drive those feelings in the first place. So that's the assignment this week. Watch for two kinds of good feelings, making it in the world good feelings, surprised by beauty, captured by a moment, good feelings. And notice our bad feelings, try not to react to them in order to make them stop, try and locate them in our bodies, and just watch them. Then when we get into the practical part of this lesson, you'll have context around what we're actually doing when we're letting go, letting go, letting go. So, indwelling divine, may we grow into the skill, grow into the capacity of letting go of those things that drive us. Amen. Well, if you would, please prepare your offerings. We have been a very generous community, and there are a lot of things that have come up and that will be coming up that in a very practical way take dollars. And so thank you very much for contributing dollars to the community. I have an idea in my mind to come to you at some time in the future. I'm going to meet with the board today and talk about it, and I might ask you for a bunch of money. I'm not sure I'm going to, but I might. But if I do, I'll explain to you why. But let's first just get caught up from being a little bit behind from the move, and let's think about that. So if you're behind in your giving, this is a good time to catch up. Remember what I say all the time. It is always a good return on investment when we invest in spiritual community, because we give those resources, our dollars included, and our love, and going out and making friends because the summertime schedule is loosening up, making time to invest in one another. We invest in the community. Then the community takes that resource and gives it back to us and amplifies the well-being of our lives and our souls, creating the environment that human beings were designed to live in, environment of authentic, supporting community. So we all give on the website now. Go to the top. There's a donate button. Please do that. And as we are getting ready to dismiss the folks online, if you would, please put your hand on your heart. Wait a minute, don't do that yet. Take your hand off of your heart. Those of you online, we're going to do What Are You Thinking here in the room. We encourage you to join the What Are You Thinking that's happening on Zoom. I'm going to give you the correct password this week. I'm not going to give you the code to get into my alarm in my house. You go to the front page of our website, and you go to the link that says, "What are you thinking?" on Zoom, and you put in the code 1417. That is correct, right? 1417. All right. I hope you'll do it. I know there's all kinds of resistance to doing that. Why in the world would you do that? Who knows? They might be mean to you. But I promise you they won't. And I also promise you that if you do this over time, you will begin to develop a set of network of relationships, even online, that'll become very enriching for your life. Hope you'll do it. Now, put your hand on your heart. Let's dismiss those folks. Let's remember as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine, which means we have within us everything we need: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, what our scriptures call the fruit of the Spirit. It is in us. And if you would, extend your other hand to our city. Let's look for opportunities this week to share the stuff that's already in us with the people that we live and work and go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. We are dismissed. Those of us in the room, we are not dismissed.